morning, class. Are you all there? Good morning, all. Good morning, Vicky. Good morning, Ladma. Good morning, Murtaza. Good morning, Ravi. Good morning, Shilpi. Good morning, Naresh. Good morning, Amreen. Good morning, Shweta. Good morning, Lily and Merit. Good morning, Abash. Good morning, Rakshita. Morning, everybody. Good morning, Roshan. Good morning, Nina. Good morning, Rajesh. Rashid, good morning. Abhesh, good morning. Shall we start the class? Okay. Go to your slide where you see that shiny Mercedes, golden color Mercedes. After the slide where one senior man and a young girl are rubbing noses, no? Like the Maoris I told you, and then the Kyrgyzstan bread photograph. My voice is low, is it? Is that better now? Okay. Sujan, good morning. Mohan, good morning. Sunita, good morning. Chaitra, good morning. Bharti, good morning. Lavanya, good morning. Yashaswini, good morning. Manjunath, good morning. Shubhodaya. Sabin, good morning. Thanks, Shabin. Yeah. Hello, good morning. Smile, everyone. Yeah, with your teeth, I should see your teeth. Hassan, good morning. Okay. Are we ready? Yes. Mani Reddy, good morning. Yeah. Now we will start class. See, mm, there are two. When manufacturing of airplanes, we had only Boeing once upon a time. Then Airbus started started in competition with Boeing. So what happened is when one second, anybody else? Uh, Amrita, Anita, good morning. Manikanta, good morning. Amrita, good morning. Yes, Yashaswini, thank you. Puneet, good morning. Okay. So, look at the shiny Mercedes I have shown you in the, and some men shaking hands. That slide. In suits, some men in suits are there. Now, see, what happened is Boeing was the only manufacturer of airplanes, commercial airplanes. Then Airbus came into the picture, and Airbus started manufacturing. So there was competition. So when there is no competition, you're not so much worried about the cost of your planes because people will buy. You are a monopoly. They have to buy from you. Where else will they go if they want a commercial plane? Isn't it? So, Zohra, good morning. So, what happens is here when Airbus started, they started manufacturing, airplanes, and the cost had to be considered. If the cost was lesser, you could sell for a better price or a higher profit anyway, isn't it? So, what happened is these fellows they had Japanese partners who would do part of their planes. Not all the part of a plane or a car. Bharat, Akarsh, good morning. Bharat, good morning. Madhuling, good morning. So not all parts of a car are manufactured by the original car manufacturer. I told you, no? So there are guys called OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, who make parts of the car, like fenders, for example. I gave you the example of India as a manufacturing hub where manufacturers rose. Good morning. So when manufacturers come to Tamil Nadu, it's a state in southern state in India, a neighboring state. For those who don't know, so come to Tamil Nadu, and around Tamil Nadu, there are, like, if you go from Bangalore to Tamil Nadu, you'll see some factories on the side. Many of them are OEMs, original equipment manufacturers. OEM mean you manufacture a part that goes into the brand new car. Okay, in a car, not all the parts are manufactured by the car manufacturer. Some parts like fenders, windscreens, something, the maybe the wipers, maybe the rear view glass, or the glass which, the rear view, there are three, so those, maybe the lights, all this. Anjali, good morning. So all these come. Once again, anyone else? Hemant, good morning. Shekhar, good morning. Asha, good morning. So all these lights and all, no, they come from the OEMs, original equipment manufacturers. So similarly, what happens with Boeing is, Boeing has Japanese partners who do parts of the plane. So once, I believe Boeing, I think I told you this, but I'd like to repeat this example. Boeing told its Japanese partners to give the Boeing a mirror finish. Now, mirror finish in actual English, mirror finish means give a shiny finish, okay? Like that car there. It's a shiny finish, that's all. But Japanese are not original English speakers. So when they said mirror, they naturally they'll say, what is the dictionary meaning of the mirror? Not that they went and saw the dictionary, they know the meaning of a mirror. So they said a mirror is something where you can see the reflection, okay? So they polished and polished the outside of the airplane, it seems, and so that the reflection could be seen. That is what mirror finish meant to them. And then the Americans were surprised. The polishing costs labor, isn't it? So labor charges were so many, and the Americans were saying, for mirror finish, why do I have to pay so much of labor charge? And to their surprise, it was like you could see yourselves outside. So that was the what this thing. So in communication, you have to be very clear of what you're saying. When you use certain words, you have to be very careful. Do not use colloquial words. Like many of us have gone off into saying, like, there was one word, anyway. Anyway is the correct word, but somebody started saying anyways, and everybody used to use anyways, whether you required it or not. This word anyways was to come into conversation. So often on some kind of interjections like this. Yes, Triven, Shekhar, uh, Madevi, good morning, good morning. So sometimes this kind of colloquial words come into the picture, but we are not supposed to use them. Just because someone in a TV serial uses them, we cannot use them, because we are not talking about drama, we are talking about business, you see. So you have to be very careful with your communication. Also, Nasser, yes, Nasser, good morning. So also you have to be careful about your gestures, your eyes, like some people have this thing of, say, rolling of the eyes. Oh, what the hell, like this. Sorry about the bad word. Like this, all these kind of things, and making faces. Um, you know, all this. So you have to learn not to make any kind of expressions on your face when you talk in international business. People will definitely misunderstand, because you're saying one thing, but your face expression is saying another thing. All right. So something like this. Now let us come to the um, uh, next slide. So non-verbal communication. Ali Fatin, good morning. So non-verbal communication. What does this mean? Definitely, yeah. They can mean two things. I'm not saying anything, or you keep quiet. My one, good morning. Oh, this is our my one. Yeah, because my one Eunice also says good morning. Yes, my one, good morning. Rima, good morning. Yeah. Don't think I have a better smile for my one Eunice or my one. I have the same smile for all of you. Okay, so here we are. This can mean keep quiet or my lips are sealed. Both ways it can mean. All right, but I don't know. You can see this girl, little girl in that slide making faces, and then you have, I brought a lot of expressions, etc. for you. Just see. Can you afford to make expressions in international business? See, I'm talking about culture. I'm continuing on culture. Now let's talk about gift giving. Gift giving. You see a string of pearls. To whom can you give a string of pearls? Yeah, to someone who is close to you. Can you give a string of pearls to anybody? You cannot. Yeah, can you give to your classmate's girlfriend? You'll get beaten up, for example. So the color of the roses you give. A red rose is for only one person in your life. Don't say at a time. I'm sorry to say that because you till you choose who's going to be your life partner. It can be a red rose, can be one at a time. Okay, just joking. It's not a good joke, I know. Excuse me for that. Yeah, Bhavani, good morning. So, red rose means a particular thing. What do you mean by pink? What do you mean by yellow? Suppose you're giving me a rose as your teacher, you must give me a yellow rose. It shows respect. Okay, so you have to be careful about the color of the roses you give because in international language, a color definitely means something. All right. Then, for example, you see here how you set the table. You also have to learn in international business some etiquette of eating in a restaurant or eating with others. Suppose a small tip. Suppose you're sitting, a plate is in front of you, and you see on your right three spoons, and on your left three fork, forks. Okay, F-O-R-K-S. Now, which fork and which spoon will you use first? The outside one, not the inside one, the outer circle one you have to use. Because according to that fork, whatever dish they're serving, no, see, it could be they're serving, some kind of pre-lunch snacks. So the outside fork, the one that's outside, is used for left side. Sorry, outside fork is used for the pre-lunch snacks. Then maybe you're getting soup, so the outside, the one on the outer side, that spoon will be the soup spoon. Good morning, Rupa. Yeah, Bhavna, good morning. So outside spoon, outside fork, like that, and then for the next thing they are serving the inner one, like that. Okay, the last dessert spoon and all will be near the plate. The others which are coming with which you have to use for the dishes that come first are on the outside. Okay, so something like this you have to. How will you fold your napkin? Will you tuck it here, tuck it on your neck, or will you keep it on your lap? All this matters. Okay. Okay, next we come to international negotiation. You see those two guys, they are holding baseball bats behind. So we shake hands. If the handshake is not over, here's my bat for you. That I purposely brought the cartoon. But do you really think we have a win-win situation? I have a feeling that one person wins and convinces the other that he's a happy loser, or convinces him that he has won. Many times it happens like that. To illustrate, I think I told you about the bear and the hunter. I like, for negotiation, I like to tell this joke, the bear and the hunter. Once a hunter goes to hunt a bear in the forest. Tejas, good morning. Hunt a bear in the forest. Okay. So what happens for the bear is, the hunter is about to shoot a bear, and then the bear says, wait a minute, let's negotiate. So, okay, fine. The bear and the hunter sit on the trunk of a fallen tree and they're negotiating. The hunter says, I came to shoot you because I wanted a coat for the winter. I'm cold. and winter is dawning, and I'm feeling cold, so I wanted your skin as a coat for me. So the bear says, I know I'm not Peter and I don't want Peter to attack me. This is just a joke. Okay, nobody killed anybody, and are they going to kill? Then the bear says, I came to eat you because I'm hungry. I wanted a full stomach. So they negotiate. Half an hour later, the bear walks away happily. The hunter is in his stomach. Bear has eaten the hunter. The hunter is nice and warm. He wanted to be warm, right? He's nice and warm in the bear's stomach, and the bear has a nice warm stomach full. So, is there really a win-win situation? Who convinces whom that you are a happy loser, happy winner? Actually, you're a happy loser. Okay, just joking. Think about it. Negotiations can be for two reasons. One is when you are in trouble, naturally. When you are in trouble and when there is some misunderstanding or something has happened, etc. Some disaster management. Disaster means I'm not talking in terms of natural disasters. Some disaster that happened because of your marketing technique or something like that. Some consumer organizations are attacking you or something like that. Okay. Now, on the other hand, negotiations can be to make a new contract. Okay. Guys, Preksha, good morning. Am I clear? Loud and clear? Just give me a thumbs up if I'm loud and clear. Excuse me. Okay, I'm continuing. So next, negotiations. See, what kind of disaster can happen? I'll give you an example. Okay, negotiations are for two reasons. One, when there is a trouble or an issue that has caused some rumblings, some unhappy or misunderstandings or something like that. And Mandira, good morning. Just okay. Thanks, Rashid. Yes. So the second thing is when you want to sign a new contract. Thanks, Murtaza. When you want to make something new, bargain, get into a new contract, make a new deal or something. No, that time also you require. Okay, excuse me. Now look at this example. The next slide. In 1994, there was a soccer World Cup. Okay. Now, what McDonald's did is, you see, McDonald, you can have a cup of Pepsi or something like that, and you have chips, no? Yes, Nasir. Yes, Yasser. Thank you. Yasser is also there. Good morning, Yasser. Yeah. Good morning, Naveen. Yeah. So what happens is in the 1994 World Soccer Cup, excuse me, in the 1994 World Soccer Cup, Deepika, good morning. What happened is McDonald's did a new campaign. There were 24 countries. Yes, sir. Yeah, there were 24 countries who were participating in the soccer club. So what they did is McDonald's. You have a little cup like paper cup where you get your finger chips, no, the potato chips, yeah, French fries and all, no. You get your in a small plastic, sorry, not plastic, in a paper cup. So you eat your chips and then you scrunch that paper and you throw it in the waste paper bag. See, McDonald did the mistake of it was trying to be nice actually. Without giving much thought to what they were doing, they printed the flags of all the countries who were participating in the World Cup on the paper cup. So people were angry. You know why people were angry? Imagine it's your country's flag. It is on that paper cup, and other country's flag, which you have to respect. And you're scrunching all those flags and throwing it into the waste paper basket. You're eating from the cup and scrunching it and throwing. So it was a big issue, and then especially many countries objected to this. So McDonald's had to apologize and take away those cups and make it different. Okay, so there we are. Okay, sorry. Um, Now, symbols. I told you I was making fun of you. What is this? And you said, ma'am, victory and peace and all. And then I told you these are my fingers. So I repeat what I said. A symbol is something that really is not what it really is. Really, they are my fingers. But when I show it like this, if I show like this, these are my fingers. But when I show like this is definitely victory or peace. A symbol is something that is not what it really is. What it really is my fingers, but it's a symbol. Now, if you see here next, I've shown you the Statue of Liberty. Can you see that? See your slides. It is the Statue of Liberty. When you see the Statue of Liberty, you will automatically say USA, right? Next, so symbols exist for countries, as I told you. Next, I showed you Big Ben. You know what is? Yes, Shashikant. Happy morning to you too. So next, is Big Ben. Big Ben, when you say it's, we'll say London. Then you'll say India Gate. This is the in India. Then the Great Wall of China. You'll say China, right? Taj Mahal, India, isn't it? Then you have the swastika. Then you have some more the saying there symbols there. I've shown you a dove with a leaf in its mouth, with a twig in its mouth. What does a dove signify? Peace, isn't it? If I show you a dollar, you'll say money, money. Yeah? And if I show you a heart, you'll not say heart, you'll say it's love, isn't it? So something like this. Then you have status symbols. I've shown you a limousine there, a very long limousine. If I come to university on a limousine, it will be a status symbol, isn't it? Well, I don't even know how a limousine looks like. I've never seen in my life except in pictures. So don't think I'll come in a limousine ever. So here we are. It will be a status symbol if someone arrives for anything in a limousine. Okay. Then you have, for example, these expensive watches. People flaunt these expensive watches. They're all status symbols. Okay, just showing you symbols. Also, see if you can see a red Indian person there. A lot of skins. So the more number of skins, the status symbol. Then you see one lady with a lot of rings on the neck. In different places, different Mahesh, good morning. Different kinds of symbols are there. In that particular African tribe, the more rings you have, the more beautiful you have because you have a longer neck than the others. All right. So here look at the next thing. Some are prestige symbols. Having a tattoo, yeah, having a tattoo that it shows your nature. Suppose any kind of tattoo that shows some tattoos show aggression, some tattoos show beauty, something like this. Okay, so tattoo also is supposed to be a status symbol. Okay, prestige symbol. In some countries, the more number of sheep, say in a village for example, the person with the largest number, owner of the largest number of sheep is the richest man. So sometimes uh, your wealth is measured with your livestock. Okay, so something like this. Then even a person can be a symbol. When you show Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation, you automatically say peace loving, non violent, isn't it? Then if you can see here Shakira, when you say, you won't say Shakira, you'll say music. Yeah, whatever music she represents. Go to the next slide. You can see a flag. It's a checks of black and white checks, a flag. What does that flag mean? It means the end of a race. All right. It is not a flag as a flag in this kind of things. It is the end of a race. So there are other symbols here. Like for example, you have a BMW symbol, you have a Toyota symbol, PETA, meats not green, etc., etc. So gestures are another type of symbol. You see here in the next slide, I also say we won. When you say this one or we won, something like this, we won. Okay. If I show you my watch, I am not wearing a watch. When you come to class, if I show you my watch, you say you're late. I'm not showing you my watch. Watch becomes a symbol to say you are late. Okay, something like this. And when on my face when you're yawning during class, you're saying, "Ma'am, you're boring." Okay, or I like to think that I'm not boring. I like to think this: you had a late night last night because you were watching a TV till 3 a.m. Watching movie till 3 a.m. in the morning. So a symbol of yawning in the class gives you a different conception, me a different conception. You're telling me, ma'am, your class is boring. But in my mind, I'm understanding you saw a movie till 3 a.m. That's why you're yawning. Okay? Well, my classes are never boring. Okay, here we are. Next, you see a guy making symbols. I don't want to show the symbols now, like thumbs up, thumbs down, or I don't understand, something like this. And oh my god, like this. So, are these gestures that you should practice? Never. These are not gestures that you should practice because gestures will not work in international communication. And they can be offensive also. Okay, if I do like this, somebody is talking and I'm doing like this, or I'm rolling up my eyes like this. Okay, these are things that should not happen. You're like, you're actually patiently listening or something like that, and but your face expressions are saying something else, and you're making like this and say, I'm listening. What do you mean by that? So your face expression should be blank. All right, pleasant, not extremely serious, but pleasant. At the same time, not make any gestures, roll up your eyes, screw up your face, very careful. Okay, so here we are. I have a summary of some things and then come to values. Come to the slides, components of culture. We are talking about values. You see here, shown you many women. The colors, tone of their skin is bright, bright, dark, um all kinds of shades of the thing. But none of them you can say are not beautiful. All of them are beautiful in their own way. Some of them have no jewelry on, some of them are fully jeweled, bejeweled. So the values are different. This is just to explain to you that values are different. Pavan, good morning. Values are different in different countries. 50 years ago, how were our values? A woman feeling shy was supposed to be demure. Today, I don't know whether we have women feeling shy, being called demure, etc. You know, so 100 years ago you had people like in the US and all, UK, they had to have a tiny waist if you were good looking. And in China, their feet were so small, 3.5 feet. Their feet were tied so that they will not grow. Tiny feet means more beautiful, it seems. So these are the things. Again, you have some pictures of, here, upper lip extended. That, according to some, that is beauty. All right. And you see a big earring and all that. Yeah. And there is a lady there with a tattoo on the face. Many of us would not like to have a tattoo on the face, but for that particular tribe, tattoo on the face is supposed to be prestigious. All right, different tattoos on the hands. Beauty accents are focused on the face and head. You can see there a face with a lot of. For us, it would be, oh my God, scar marks. Okay, scar marks. But actually, they are not. They're supposed to be made marks for beauty's sake. Okay, you see next there Chinese or Japanese feet, Chinese I think, and in order to make the women have tiny feet, because tiny feet, you have to go pitter patter on your tiny feet, I believe, and then they used to tie the feet, so the feet have to grow somewhere, no? You can see a deformed foot there, it is tied so hard. 3.5 inch shoes or something like that. So different places you have different kinds concepts of um, beauty. Now I come to a slide called the Thai King, Thailand, sparks shirt craze. See, the king of Thailand, Bhumi Bol, I think he's called. He passed away a couple of years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. Now his son rules Thailand. I mean, rules means the monarchy of Thailand is headed by King Bhumi Bol's son. See, King Bhumi Bol was a very popular leader. People had a great love for this monarch. So they always wished him luck. You see this Thai king, you can see him in a pink suit and a pink shirt. I believe astrologers, once the king was in hospital, and the astrologers told him, I believe, pink is your lucky color. So the king started wearing pink when he left the hospital. He was in pink, and there was thanks to this pink color, the whole of Thailand, the people wanted to wish the king well. That's why they started wearing pink t-shirts, and there was a rush for pink t-shirts. The previous year, I believe, when he came out, when he came out of hospital previous year, the astrologers told him it's yellow. Yellow is your lucky color. So everyone was selling yellow. If you see the two ladies there, this is yellow. They're showing yellow t-shirts in their hands, and that was the previous year's color. This then the next year the king wore pink, and everyone in the country started wearing pink. Why am I giving you this example? Because a particular culture influences business. See, you can say the culture of the king to wear a particular color, and the culture of the people to wish the king well by wearing the same color. Uh, it comes down to, it percolates to business, people selling pink t-shirts and yellow t-shirts. So culture can promote your business. Okay, culture can promote your business. Suppose you are in Thailand and the king came out in pink. You could make a variety of dresses, including t-shirts. See, t-shirts are very popular because, excuse me, you can wear the, excuse me, you can wear a t-shirt to work, you know. So t-shirt is something that you can wear anywhere, even at home or in the or when you shop and all that. So very smartly, t-shirt sellers have taken up the are riding on the boom. Okay, so this is one example to show you that you can see people lining up to buy t-shirts. Okay, see, I have given you an example of a Saudi Arabian princess whose conduct was not appreciated by her country compatriots. Teja, good morning. By her country compatriots, and she was beheaded. All right, something to do with immoral values, immorality, and values. So you can read it there. All right. Now, why are we are coming to something there? See, multinational corporations that cause international business are supposed to be very good for the country because, first of all, they bring in uh, foreign direct investment or foreign institutional investment. They bring business to the country and they give jobs. Excuse me. The most important is jobs. All right. For a country like ours with the population of 1.2 billion, it becomes necessary to become a successful business. It should be a business that gives a lot of jobs. Then there is success. Okay. Now I have an example of Nigeria. Nina, you'll have to excuse me. I'll have to tell this. I have asked you permission once whether I can speak about Nigeria, and you said you don't mind. So this is one example. See, I'm not being judgmental. Please don't think I'm being judgmental. This is the status of countries in the world. We in India live in paradise. because we are allowed to talk, we are allowed to, we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of expression. Many countries do not have that. And we will see this. We will see what happened in Nigeria. In the 1960s, Praju, good morning. Chandu, good morning. Yeah. Um, when in the 1960s, when the Britishers left Nigeria, that is, Nigeria was a colony of the Britishers, and when 1960 they left, the world press talked about Nigeria as the one of those economic superpowers of the world. Why? Because Nigeria has a lot of oil resources. Okay, the world press lauded Nigeria that it would be one of the next superpowers of the world. But what happened? In Nigeria, there was a military. Nigeria was ruled by a military junta. Military junta, I think, it consisted at that time of three military leaders who ruled the country. So what happened? Royal Dutch Shell founded oil in Nigeria. All right. Royal Dutch Shell found oil in Nigeria. Royal Dutch is from Holland and Shell is from England. It is a joint venture. So Royal Dutch Shell found oil in lands belonging to a tribe called the Ogoni tribe. Ogoni, Ogoni tribe. Now, the junta asked the Ogoni tribe leaders for permission to drill the oil in their lands. But the Ogoni people were basically agricultural people. So they told the government, if you drill on our lands, this is going to happen. First of all, we are going to lose all the land. Why? Because once you have oil fields, oil drilling on our land, naturally inspection vehicles, etc., will go on there. So the land cannot be used for agriculture at all. Okay, people will be moving about. There will be jeeps inspecting the pipelines. Pipelines will be laid. The pipelines have to go for not just one line, they have to go different places. So all the land will be used up. We cannot this thing. Secondly, please remember that even if some oil falls into the land, oil leak happens, that land will never yield anything for ever. If there is an oil spill on the land, you will not get even a small seed sprouting on that land forever. So the Ogoni tribe leaders said, see, we earn our living with agriculture. Whatever we get from agriculture is how we educate our children and we live on this. If you drill oil on our land, what will happen to our livelihood, our children's education? So the government told them that we will 1% or 3%, I think, 3% of the revenue from the oil sales will be given to your tribe, because in compensation for the land. So the Ogoni leaders gave up their land. The government started leased it out or whatever to Royal Dutch Shell. Royal Dutch Shell started drilling oil from Ogoni lands, and it went on, but the Ogoni leaders got nothing. Their children could not be educated. They were in trouble, really trouble. Now, the plight of the Ogoni people, nobody knew, but there was one guy, if you can see him there, his name is Ken Saro-Wiwa. He was in the United States and he was a journalist. So Ken Saro-Wiwa started talking about the plight of the Ogoni people in international press. So the international press came to know about the plight of the Ogoni people. Now the military junta was not happy with this. They asked Ken Saro-Wiwa to come to the country and visit his people and see for himself whether what he said was true or not true. So Ken Saro-Wiwa did visit his country. At that same time, what happened is some Ogoni youths lynched Lynched, no, like torture and kill, or just kill or something like that. Lynched some Ogoni tribe leaders. Okay, there was an oil spill and something like that happened, and some Ogoni tribe leaders were lynched by so-called Ogoni youth, which allegedly. So what happened? The government rounded up Ken Saro-Wiwa and some of the youth, and Ken Saro-Wiwa also was accused of this lynching. There was a sham trial, and all of them were supposed to be hanged to death. Now that time, the world started telling Nigeria, you cannot do it. Please do not do it. But no one listened. No one listened. Finally, the world asked Royal Dutch Shell to intervene, and tell that please do not hang these people. The trial has to be done again. And Ken Saro-Wiwa is a journalist, and he's come from the United States. It is not, that accusation is not proved, etc., etc. But no one listened, and all the hanging did take place. Now, why have I brought this story is because multinationals play a very big part in the politics of the country also, if you are powerful. When the world asked Royal Dutch Shell to do something about it, they did nothing. Why? 33 1/3% of their oil was coming from Nigeria. 33 1/3% of the production of their oil was coming from Nigeria. They did not want to jeopardize their relationship with the Nigerian government. All right. Now, next, you come to the next slide. You see here, you see Telugu film star Chiranjeevi, he's advertising. You see Amir Khan advertising. You see our Hrithik Roshan advertising. And there's one more star there, I cannot really. So they are all advertising. In India, when a film star says something, we listen to him. Okay, when the cricket star says something, we listen to him. So rightly, these MNCs have recognized who are the demigods of India, part gods, and who have that aura that people listen to them. So here we are, we have having advertisement done by film stars. Okay, now we there are something called unethical practices. I do not want to do that now. I want to do international trade theories. So keep this. We will next generation of multinational managers characteristics we'll do in another time. Now I will go on, and I will do what I sent you today. Please look into that once again. I sent you something now today. Please look into that. Once again, I gave you a slide PowerPoints today. Last night I sent some PowerPoints. Trade theories. Okay? Okay. Now this tells us why should international trade happen. Okay? Why should international trade happen? There are several theories. There are two kinds of theories: the country-based theories, and secondly the firm-based theories. All right. Now, um, uh, now what I'm trying to tell you is, why can't trade happen within a country? Why should it cross the borders? This is what we are trying to analyze. Should trade be within a country, or should trade cross borders and go abroad also? Should it? According to international trade theories, it should. Why? Now, there are two broadly based theories, two classifications. The first classification is country based theories. These theories we explain them like based on countries. This country is like this, that country is like this. That is why we require a country to country trade. The second classification is firm based, firm or company based. So one company may be in one country, another company may be in another country, and they're trading. So the second type of theories explains why firms should deal with another firm. One firm should deal with another firm. So first I will go into the classification of country-based theories. Okay. Under country-based theories, as I told you, it explains why one country should trade with another country. Now, in the country-based theories, the first theory you have is mercantilism. Okay, mercantilism. See, here national wealth was measured by its treasure. If you have your treasury is full, see, this is the same concept as that of ancient kings. If a monarch's treasury was full, then it said the country is rich. If a monarch's treasury was empty by whatever reasons, then it automatically says the country is not rich. So the wealth of a country was measured by the amount of wealth stored in the Ashok, good morning. Um, the wealth of a country was measured by the amount of wealth in the treasury of the respective king. Okay, so countries should strive to export more than they import to earn gold. So if you export, what will you get? You will get the income. So this theory said you export more, import less. When you import, you have to pay out in gold. And when you pay out in gold, the amount of gold you have becomes less. So try and keep as much gold as possible. You must try to increase the gold in your treasury by exporting your goods and taking money in gold, or taking money and converting it into gold. The more gold you have, the richer you are. Okay, this is the mercantilism theory. Then use subsidies to enhance exports. Like if a neighbor is selling, it became beggar thy neighbor policy literally later on. If your neighbor is selling the same kind of goods for 100 rupees, you sell for 90. Undercut, and that was meant by subsidies. You give some maybe when you buy a lot of stuff, you're going to when the quantity of the stuff you export is very much large, maybe you will give quantity discounts. That is also can be a subsidy, or simple undercutting. That is what people used to do, undercutting the price. Okay, then use tariffs to limit imports. So there, in that slide over there are some tariffs or taxes that when you bring, see, suppose this glass is made in India, okay, and this glass costs 20 rupees. Imagine. Then, if people are importing glass and they are selling it for 20 rupees, then this glass will not have a value. Suppose that glass looks better, or they will compete on par. Now, suppose on a glass that comes from abroad, the government puts some tax and that glass becomes 30 rupees. So the glasses look same and they're very attractive anyway. So why should I buy a 30 rupees glass because it is imported when I can get a same quality one for 20 rupees in my country? So this is the meaning of putting tariffs. Okay, that is tariffs, financial tariffs. Non tariff barriers are saying you're importing glasses. Okay, I'll put a quota. You cannot, whole country cannot import more than this. Okay, so suppose they say you can import only 100 glasses, or let's say we can import only 1,000 pieces of glass. Then if there are 10 importers, each of them 1,000 by 10, only 100 pieces of glass they can import. So that is a quota barrier. Then voluntary export restraints are there. Okay, VERs. So sometime political, there are some political NTPs, administrative NTPs, quotas, restrictions, embargoes, etc. Those I'll tell you in another class. But let it suffice you to understand that tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers are put in this mercantilism theory to increase export and decrease your import. Is that clear? Why? Because you have to keep the gold intact, increase it, not decrease it. All right. Now, use overseas colonies to export at high prices and buy from at low prices. Okay. So, effects of mercantilism practiced until the mid 20th century. So, even today, you have that this thing. No, I'll tell you. I'm going to talk to you about the gold standard in my next class on Wednesday. And that time, first I'll finish the theories and then I'll talk to you about the gold standard. That time you realize how these theories still work in international business. Now, the next theory was theory of absolute advantage. This was Adam Smith. You must have heard of Adam Smith. He's an economist, isn't it? In his very famous book, The Wealth of Nations, which he wrote in 1776, he has said something about absolute advantage. First, I will tell you what is the meaning of absolute advantage, and then we'll go point by point in what the theory says. See, suppose we all know that Japan is very, very good in manufacturing cars. We also know that Switzerland is very good in manufacturing watches. Switzerland is a mountainous country, so they can't have transport of goods, heavy goods from one place to another. So they prefer to manufacture and transport goods that are not much in weight, and that's why you have Swiss chocolates and Swiss watches. Swiss watches are supposed to be, very famous and very good. So suppose we understand that in 1 hour, Japan can make one car. Imagine, hypothetically, in 1 hour, Japan can make one car, automobile car. And in that same 1 hour, Switzerland can make one watch. We'll cross this, okay? Uh, Switzerland may require 24 hours to make one car, and Japan may require 24 hours to make one watch because of the expertise situation. So this is just a theory. I know people are adapted everything these days everywhere. So what happens is we just say since Japan is very good in manufacturing cars, we leave the manufacturing of cars to Japan only, and we leave the manufacturing of watches to Sweden. So Sweden will manufacture the watches and it will sell to anybody who doesn't have that kind of expertise to manufacture a watch in 1 hour. Similarly, Japan will manufacture the cars, and that's why it will export its cars to other countries who cannot make a car in 1 hour, hypothetically. Okay, that is why this is the basic understanding of Adam Smith's theory of absolute advantage. Now we will go through and look at its this thing. He says, Adam Smith says, real wealth consists of goods and services available to citizens, not gold. Gold, what for? Yeah, you can't eat gold, no, you can't use gold. You're going to get use it as a bejeweled for some time. You can't be bejeweled all the time, isn't it? So what is available to citizens, whether I get a car which I can go about, whether I can get a refrigerator to use in my kitchen, a microwave to be used in my kitchen, cooking gas, electricity, light, water, these are the facilities. If I can get, that is wealth. Okay, so today if you see, if you have a house where you have a fridge, you have cooking gas, you have electricity supply, you have running water supply, you are rich. Okay, so that is the thing that Adam Smith says. Now different countries inherently can produce some goods more efficiently than others, and when you are efficient in your goods, you must specialize in the goods. Okay, that is the same thing that we say for Japan. Japan is good in manufacturing cars, so it should specialize in manufacturing cars. Sweden is good in manufacturing watches, so it should. Yes, Aruna. Aruna. Yeah, my old student, no man, Aruna. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good morning, Aruna. How are you? Okay. So, um, see, usually if I'm in class, everybody has to wave from me from outside. Now, today you can come to my class thanks to technology. Okay, here we are. Um, Different. So, if your country is good in manufacturing something, get specialized in that and keep on manufacturing that. So, specialization, next point, specialization should be based on natural. Natural how? See, in some places, people are see, people who live in mountainous places, no, they are very hardy. They have a lot of strength. They can climb up mountains. They can, they can carry loads on their back and go. They're much more stronger than people who live in the plains. So this is an inherent quality. Suppose you require laborers who can do some kind of climbing or hard work, then the mountainous area people inherently have that ability. Inherent. Okay. You look at some animals like the llama and all. They're used to carry loads of burden where an automobile cannot go. So the inherently these animals possess those characteristics. Is that clear? So this is the meaning of inherent, or sometimes you can say inherent because there is water in that country, or something like this. Okay, because of the water, you can have water-based industries, something like this. Inherent. Some people acquire the quality. They get trained and they use it. All right. So this is the difference between acquired and inherent. Okay. You can acquire an advantage or you can have inherent advantages. Global efficiency can thus be increased through free trade. See, when Japan, and we come to the Japan and Sweden situation again. If Sweden requires 24 hours to make one car, and Japan requires 24 hours to make one watch. Obviously, the price of the cost they are using to operating cost, I mean the manufacturing cost of manufacturing a car in Japan will be much cheaper than the manufacturing cost in Switzerland. Not only the time, the cost also. Similarly, watch manufacturing in Japan will be much more expensive. Manufacturing cost will be much higher than the manufacturing cost in Switzerland. All right. So let the countries manufacture what is inherently their capacity or acquired capacity, and let them manufacture and sell to the world. This is the meaning of the theory of absolute advantage. Now we come to the theory of comparative advantage. This is David Ricardo, in 1817 gave this theory. He says, see, it is similar to the absolute advantage, but he says relatively better. It doesn't mean absolutely you're better. Like I gave you a comparison of a watch in 1 hour and versus 24 hours. So that is absolutely better. But this is relatively better. Both of us can manufacture, but you are better than me. So you manufacture that product. I am better than you in this manufacturing this product. So I'll manufacture this product. Don't waste your time on manufacturing this product. I won't waste my time in manufacturing the product you're manufacturing because you're better than me. Rajesh, good morning, Rajesh. How are you? Happy birthday to you once again. Okay, so that way. Is that clear? So, comparative advantage. So, I will read the points. Gains from trade will occur even when a country has absolute advantage in all products. The production of different products will use production factors more or less efficiently. All right. Such a country. So see what I said. You and I. You manufacture product A. much better than I can manufacture. I'm spending more money, more labor, more efforts in manufacturing that product. But you can manufacture at a cheaper rate with lesser laborers, with lesser overheads. Product A. So I will not manufacture product A. I'll buy from you product A, and there happens the international trade. Whereas product B, I'm good in manufacturing. So I will manufacture, you don't manufacture. I will manufacture and give you how much you want or to anybody else. Okay, there the international trade happens. Alright. Now you have the theory of absolute advantage and you have the theory of comparative advantage. So there are some assumptions of this theory that this theory assumes full employment and objective is economic. Like I also want to do better. I also want to get money. You also want to get money. Economics. Two countries, two commodities only. We are not talking about all countries. We are talking about two commodities that can be like in. I just say product A and product B. That I said Swiss cars, sorry, Swiss watches and Japanese cars. Okay, so no transport cost. We're not talking about transport cost, and resources are not mobile. Like you can't say I can bring the, I can. Why not bring the Swiss factory machinery to and Swiss factory people to Japan and manufacture? That has happened. Not that it hasn't happened, but in this theory, it doesn't assume. It assumes that such things are not there. They're not mobile. And then goods, more, we are talking more about manufacturing goods than services. If it's a doctor's services or some other services, the services are mobile, isn't it? So we cannot talk about those services in these two theories. All right. Now, next is country based theories. You have this one, relative factor endowments, that comes with country size and all that. Class, shall I stop here? Do you want me to continue or shall I stop here? I usually like to stop about 1 hour 15 minutes. Thing. Any questions for me? I hope you understood. It is nicer to talk for about 1 hour 15 minutes and stop class, because I don't want to use your attention span may not be more. Shall I stop here? Tell me, or shall I proceed? If I should proceed, you type proceed. Otherwise, you say please stop. Let me know. Continue. Huh? Okay. Thanks. Okay. Thanks means I stop, is it? Okay. Madhavi, what is the meaning of yes, stop, is it? Okay. So, okay. Next class, that is on Wednesday, I will talk to you about Anjali, sorry. Okay. Um, Madhavi, now I'm confused. Okay, Mallikarjun. Okay. I don't understand when you say yes. Enough for today. Chaitra says proceed. See, I will stop today. You know why? Because the theories what I'm going to talk now are not so easy. I want with a fresh mind. Okay, so I will not proceed today. I think enough. Yes, Madhavi, I got it. Okay, thank you, class. I hope you're all safe and healthy in your homes. Please do not walk about, and please, I know I'm only getting feeling so cooped up at my age. You all, how cooped up you must be, I can understand, but you cannot help it, isn't it? If we live, we go on for another. We can do something more. If we don't live, there's no point of saying we are cooped up at all. So it is a question of seriously life and death, and the government is doing the best for us. So please listen to what the government, the policemen are implementing it. Please listen to what the government is saying. When they mean a lockdown, they really mean a lockdown. Please don't wander out. And when you need your groceries also for morning, make a list and go. Don't go every day unnecessarily. Saying I want one green chili, one tomato. Don't do that. Okay? As far as possible, try and adjust with whatever you have and buy judiciously, buy wisely, make a list and go. And what you don't really require, not necessary to buy. We don't need clothes. What clothes we have are hanging in the wardrobes, no? Yeah, they're, I can't even remember what clothes we have these days because we are not using them. So imagine, take it as a pinch of a joke for everything, and be cheerful. See, when you're cheerful, your immunity is good. So try and never remove that mask, especially when you have to interact with somebody. For if somebody delivers some goods home and all that, always wear a mask. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep smiling. I'll be back on Wednesday 9 a.m. and possibly I'll take a longer class on Wednesday, since most of you expressed that you want a longer class. I'll take a longer class. Okay, because these theories are going to be a little confusing for you. I'll stop now. These two theories you've studied more than enough. I will go ahead. Bye then, class. Keep smiling, all of you. Bye bye. Take care. God bless.